so that,
Right.
I have to consider the source. Like, it clicked in. Remember, this is 05, where you would buy a toaster, and that was your relationship with the toaster. You didn't go back and write, this toaster fucking blows. This toaster's whole family needs to be killed. Fuck this toaster's got no talent. Remember, you didn't review toasters. Right. So there was a time before that.
Dystopia Tonight. Dystopia Tonight.
Yo, thank you guys for having me.
Thanks for coming, man.
Man.
Yeah, no worries.
Really appreciate you guys. Nice intro. Appreciate that.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. So what? I mean, I feel like now Heckler needs like an update. Like you need to add like something at the end of it now with that whole fucking Chris Rock, Will Smith shit. Because that documentary was fucking huge to me when I was starting out doing stand up, man. Because it felt like, just getting people to watch that who don't know what we do. And not quite understanding what it's like to be in random places with strangers that you do not know, and traveling the country and shit like that, and kind of getting a feel for it too. It was awesome, man, and it was also kind of cathartic too, because all the people that you interviewed, it's nice to know that everybody fucking goes through it, and it's not just you.
Yeah, I mean, like, look, it's that movie was made from pain. You know what I mean? Like, it was, people ask, well, how'd you start? You start like this or that. It's like, listen, I just wanted to be, I didn't even know what I wanted to be. I wanted to be in the game. You know what I mean? I got very lucky. A movie came to Philadelphia called Dead Poets Society. After wanting to be somehow an actor or whatever, I signed up. I got picked as an extra. I got to stand next to Robin Williams for 2 days. It was like life-changing. It was the end of my high school. And then I was like, oh, this is what I'm meant to do. I had a teacher who was a substitute who was a big comic in Philly, and he would come in and do Daffy Duck impressions. And I'm like, George Kaufman's teaching us geometry. Like, this is like, he would kill it. He would follow over the Goofy. And I'm like, Jesus Christ, this is Richard. And I never knew it. He's like, well, keep doing math, kid. You're going to end up like me. And I'm like, what's that? He's like, substitute teaching and doing fucking shitty one-nighters in Poughkeepsie. I was like, what is a shitty one? So I was probably like 17, but I had these weird ass mentors that didn't know they were mentoring me, right?
Right.
So once I graduated high school, which I would have quit gladly, but my mother was very, wanted to do that. I just was like, started delivering pizzas, got into stand-up.
Right.
But that's a longer story. But I wanted to be an actor, stand-up. I had no idea. My people were Eddie Murphy. That was like, that's who my hero was. Rodney, these different Joan Rivers, who did it all. Joan was less of an actor, but she did a lot of TV. And
did you get to meet Rodney and Joan or any of them?
Never Joan. Her daughter, very nice. Melissa, had some good times with her.
Nice.
Rodney, I met. He bumped me at the Factory. He bumped me at the Improv.
Oh, wow.
And he killed. And then it's like that thing where you're like the new comic, and you're like, and now me.
Yeah.
And then, and I was like, I know this is a God-given moment. Like, this is so special. And I went up, and that kind of worked. Like, now this guy. And then I said to Rodney from stage, I was like, dude, how do I get to audition for you? And I'm trying to work the impression. And he walked out, he goes, you gotta have jokes, kid. And then like in the middle of like my set, harder than anything I could have ever. It was his heckle was the funniest shit.
Oh, that's hilarious.
I gotta work on. You gotta have jokes. Literally said that. And
fucking hilarious.
But I mean, if you're gonna get bumped, that's the way to get bumped.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So which is a whole other thing, which I tell people now. We used to have something called Young Showcase Night in the 90s, where unknown comics would go up for people to see who's out there. I mean, it's crazy. We don't have that anymore. You know what I mean?
No,
it's
I know.
Like all the headliners would be on the road making millions of dollars, not doing 10 minutes, which that's a whole other ball of wax.
I know, man. It fucking sucks.
Like, you wouldn't see anybody past the middle in the clubs.
Right.
They would all be on the road. So Heckler was born out of, really a love letter in a way. I loved Comedian, and I think that's an amazing documentary.
Yeah, it's a great one.
And I just was like, comedy was the hardest thing, but yet it's kind of the most respectful, because at least the hecklers are there. Like Dice said that to me. He's like, dude, hecklers at least say it to your face. And it's like online and reviewers and online. So that's what the movie was. It was slowly how we're morphing in to a heckling culture. To now, hecklers have whole careers. People do a whole thing of what I call negging people, where they talk shit and they become bigger. There's been bloggers that have done this and become huge, and quite frankly, comedians, rappers do it. Everybody does it, right?
Yeah.
I just want to do what I do. But it was very painful. And once I met, there were two moments in my career. Once I met George Lucas.
Wow.
Was one when the IMDb boards had talked back, and somebody said something bad about Robert De Niro in the movie. And I said, oh, okay, this is all BS now, because you can never say anything bad about Robert De Niro's acting. Like, he's one of the greatest. Like, so that, I have to consider the source. Like, it clicked in. Remember, this is 2005, where you would buy a toaster, and that was your relationship with the toaster. You didn't go back and write, this toaster fucking blows. This toaster's whole family needs to be killed. Fuck this toaster's got no talent. Remember, you didn't review toasters.
Right.
So there was a time before that. And the second time I did it was when I met George Lucas, when I was filming my show for MTV, and it was a long, crazy story, and he did an interview for me for Heckler, and he's like,
wow.
He basically said, dude, there's creators and there's destroyers. Align yourself with the creators. It was very, very Star Warsian in a way he said it. And
so
it made me feel like you said. I felt, okay, we're always going to have these negative things.
Yeah, absolutely. And it does free you up to like really, because you know what's crazy is like you probably remember when you were a kid, you weren't aware of any of that shit when you were making stuff, whether it sucked, whether what anybody thought of it. When you were a kid and you were creating anything or writing anything, you just fucking slapped it against the wall and had a blast and showed it to your friends and laughed if it was ridiculous and then went about your day. And now as you get older, you're like, oh man, like you're just feel riddled with these insecurities. It's nice to be able to get back to that, you know?
Yeah. I was telling this last night. I was saying to somebody, I feel like, you tell me if I'm wrong, but I feel like comedy is kind of at the center of the universe at the moment. Between whether we're talking about news, comedians are being talked about that, if this is right information. Whether it's a scandal, comedians are talking about that. And I feel like it's never been the greatest time to be a comedian, but yet also, like you said, like people are coming for us, which is the most bizarre thing, because this and music is the last live action forms of entertainment.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'll do you one better, man. So do you know Richard Zoglin?
No.
He's an author. He's a writer. And he came out with a book in I'm gonna fuck up the date. I think it was 2010. It was called Comedy at the Edge, and it was about the stand-up in the 70s and the 80s. But what I loved about that book was, you said stand-up, so basically comedy is the center of the universe. It was like that kind of then too, because what he did with that was tied it all together. It was basically like if our sense of humor was cultivated by comedians in those decades, because everybody that started doing stand-up and writing for themselves wrote for television, movies, doctored scripts for people. So all of that shit was born out of fucking live entertainment in the Improv and the Comedy Store and filtered into, society. And I think that's kind of what we're doing today too.
Wow. That's so interesting. So you're saying it was a swath that was
Yes,
cut. And I think the swath, maybe it was known then and I didn't know it, but the swath seems bigger now.
it
Like
is.
it seems like comedy is touching from politics, medicine, scandal,
Yeah,
entertainment, rock stardom. Like it's touching
yeah,
all of these things with
exactly.
podcasting alone, you know?
And you know what's cool though too is like I think when it started to pick up like that for us, you know what I mean? Like when comedians really started to become the focal point of everything, we lost control of it a little bit because we weren't expected to be watched as much, you know, by the internet, by social media, by people who'd never really paid too much attention to us before. So we didn't know how to handle it. And we got kind of, you know, kind of lost in it a little bit, I think, where, you know, people were getting fucking canceled for bullshit, or maybe, you know, getting thrown under the bus for stuff or whatever it was. And now I feel like, you know, because of guys with these huge, massive followings like you and Rogan and all those other dudes who are comics, it's kind of, we're kind of taking the control of it. We're kind of getting the steering wheel back on and going, look, we're just fucking comics and all this shit is fodder to us. And you can either come along for the ride or you can just fuck off, you know, and get left behind on the curb. And I think that's nice.
Yeah, I mean, I think with social media, and like you said, if Heckler needs a 2.0, it definitely needs something,
Yeah.
but like it's still kind of it's relevant to today. It might even be society still maybe catching up to some of the messages in it because in a weird way, like we are in this heckling society, and what social media has done is basically giving everyone a voice, and not everyone should have one. I know I'm canceled, but what I'm saying,
no, I agree.
like
I agree.
it's if there was social media in 1880s during the gold rush in California, a lot of miners would have been canceled. You know what I'm saying? Like, like if it's basically, to me, social media shows you how much of a fraternity, sorority, whatever you want to call this big thing of comedy that we're in, how lucky we are to be in it.
Yeah.
And also really how much of the world doesn't have a sense of humor.
Oh yeah,
absolutely. And also how much they don't understand nuance or sarcasm. Yep. And so it's like basically the world showing us there are a bunch of middle managers.
Oh yeah, that's a good way to put it, man. Because that's exactly what it feels like.
Yeah, so you do a joke, that's where the Johns, right? John's people.
Yeah.
They're gonna ride with you, they're gonna die with you, they know what's up. But someone who doesn't understand you would like, what the fuck does that mean? And that's where we're at. So comedy is just gonna get hammered more and more, but what it's building is also these super hardcore zealots on the other side. It's like basically deadheads that'll follow us from show to show. Right?
Absolutely. Yeah. That's so true. And the other thing too is like I hate the way the media portrays certain shit because I think Wanda Sykes was like performing locally, this is probably pre-pandemic, but you know, she was performing at the Count Basie in Red Bank. And you know, the next night the headlines were like, oh, Wanda Sykes fans walk out of show because, and I wanted to be like, those aren't fans. Fans do not walk out of the theater. Like it was only 7 people, but like I guess she said, you know, they didn't like one of her jokes, and they wound up heckling and like leaving, and it fucking happens. But I wanted to be like, guys, reframe that fucking language. Those are not fans. Fans get the joke, stick around. You know, they're ride or die, like you just said. And but the way the media kind of frames that shit, it makes it seem like people who like us are turning against us, and that's not the case. It's never the case.
Yeah, it shows you, it's totally that. And it shows you how much we say in the green room or to each other, how much people don't talk like us or think like us or come with a different angle. I mean, comedian should be its own little section of society. You know what I'm saying? And it really should, because
I think they call those mental hospitals, but I mean, I'm not sure. I think we have those. But we're all going to wind up there one day. I always think whenever somebody's like, whenever I'm very close to like, you know, if I'm having like a a fucking I can see it. Looks like you're like
look at the sun creeping.
I know it's just making its way up.
It's like you're floating in a light beam, dude.
It's like it's gonna eat me in the middle of
that. It's perfect. We just had Will Wheaton on from Star Trek, so this kind of ties into everything. Floating on a light beam. Yeah, and I was gonna say, every time I'm like having like a fucking week, right, where like shit's just getting to me too much and I'm getting a little depressed, I always think of Jonathan Winters when he snapped, and like there was that story where he climbed the fucking flagpole, and I'm like, I could do it. Like I'm not.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And he was. He was fine. He came back out of it.
I tell people I'm so grateful. Like there's a new gratefulness that has come over me. Like, no BS. Like since the pandemic, and even though I've been very blessed, I wasn't really struggling during the pandemic, except the beginning paranoia, and we all didn't know and all that shit.
Oh sure.
But just just the ability to go out now and go to like Flappers in Burbank and see 30 people on a Sunday who are like,
yes,
and I'm like, and it's a blessing. Like, and I think that like it is. I realize how important it is for myself to express myself for me, and how important it is for people to consume it, whether it's me or someone else or you or whoever. We're lucky to be able to do that, and I think the pandemic showed me that, and more than ever. And like, and I say to people, it's like, yo, thank God you're here, because if not, I would just be that dude, like kind of shouting out things in the front of Starbucks. Like, I'm a move away, right? I think a lot of us are.
Absolutely, man. I 100% agree with that. And you know what's cool too is I feel like, I mean, there's always been a camaraderie in stand-up and stuff too, but I think even after the pandemic, it's strengthened the camaraderie, because I'm so happy to see other comedians or like try to build like even like this, like we're going to start to do Dystopia Tonight lives and stuff like that. I just want to bring more friends and more comedians in and stuff, and be able to share the same stage together at the same time. You know what I mean? Like just do more shit with people I like, more creative people.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think that I made relationships and new friends in the pandemic that I didn't see as much because we were playing the same, field, or alleyway, or shopping cart return. Like it was, we were just wherever you played wherever you could, and it was really bonding. And that's why some of this shit now that's going on in the world is way bigger. But yeah, I feel like we're back to our shallow selves on Twitter with like what we talk about and trends. And it's like, haven't we gone through some deep shit? Aren't we in the middle of some deep shit? Like,
yeah. Oh no, I know. Yeah. That shit unfortunately never stops, and I don't know why. I don't know why it doesn't. It always seems to like resurface. I'm always waiting for it to die. I don't know when it's going to, but I would love to. I would just like one EMP to hit like a Twitter tower. I don't know if that's really. Is that can I say that live? I don't even know.
Never gonna happen with Musk being like the priority shareholder in Twitter.
Oh, that's right. Musk, Elon Musk, is now the priority shareholder. That's a fucking wild trip.
Crazy.
But that's good.
You think so?
Doesn't he want free speech?
He does, but he also scares the shit out of me sometimes, because he's got all this. He's like, like, I don't know how much of a comic book fan you are, but when there's like a dude who's like got all this super tech, you know what I mean? And then it's like, 1 minute you're like, yeah, this guy's with us, and then he creates something that is going to kill us all. That's my fear. What if he hits the wrong button?
I think Elon wants to have fun. Like if you look at his tweets, let's see.
He fucks around a lot.
Yeah, he fucks around. He seems like he's got a good sense of humor. So
he does. Yeah, he does seem to. Yeah, anybody that sends his own car out into space for the fuck of it, that's got to be the weirdest shit. We're sending. I don't know if you saw this recently, but I'm not even. I wish this was a fucking joke, dude. Scientists want to send unsolicited nudes into space to see if. I swear to God, to see if aliens respond. To see if aliens respond to it. I'm like, my first question was like, how fucking lonely are these scientists, right? And also, like, but they're basically sending the human anatomy out, but it is a nude. It's a fucking text message, And I feel like I've said.
Wait, is it anatomy? Is it like a textbook thing, or is it actual? Like the first person to get out there should be the black dude,
Barry.
Yeah, that should be number one, right? That should be ground zero of nudes. He's a great representation. I mean, it's not exactly a true representation of most of planet Earth, I would say, but it would make us look great. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, everyone pick their favorite porn, send that out there.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that'd be fucking hilarious. Aliens are just like, God, they have huge dicks on Earth. Holy shit. we have to figure some shit out. Yeah.
That's weird, but that's awesome. That's weird.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. It is kind of weird what people are willing to do in the name of science.
Yeah. We're not only entertaining, we're also educational. Thanks, John. I didn't know that. That's totally new to me.
It's going to be weird to get like when they get like old Laverne and Shirley signal up there and then also just a dick. Where they're like, oh, all right. I didn't think they could handle that.
That's an interesting mix.
You're welcome for the imagery, everybody watching. Enjoy that. So how did you handle? I mean, we were all in the same place during the pandemic and stuff like that, but you went out and did some shows where you could. Did you find yourself being a little bit more creative though with the time you had? Or did you just enjoy the time off?
To be real, like that's what I did. Like I would say from March to end of October, early November, like 6-7 months, I was pretty locked down on my house.
Yeah.
But like I was fortunate, you know, I'm in LA and you know the weather was really good, and I do travel a lot, so I wasn't mad about staying at home. And quite frankly, I was Susie Homemaker. I was doing projects and cleaning up and doing a lot of life shit that I was getting caught up on, and so I used it for that, and then kind of got busy because people started doing Zooms. The community didn't let itself rest very long.
Right.
And, you know, and then I would meet people like you, you know, like New York, you know, or like Austin, I would do their shows or like some people in Florida. So it was a good mix of like talking about the community coming together. It was more even so much like grassroots of that. And so I was doing that, and then once we started going out, it was like, you know, the dip the toe parking lot, like the super hazmat suit, and then the next one a little less, and then you know, I mean, but if you're going to a field and you see, you know, some huge comedian that's also in the field, you're gonna go to the field. It's like this is where we're at, you know, and like I do a whole joke about how San Diego really opened. Like people say like San Diego basically didn't know there was a pandemic. But I mean, they're like trying to kill it with Trulies, you know. They just took a couple more Trulies, but they were the openest place for us, bro. Like, the farther south you went in California, the more you could do gigs, and it was wild. And from San Francisco, I've done it all. Like, and I love NoCal, but it's still more lockdown. And LA is kind of half. Yeah, it's pretty intense still. Wow. LA is pretty open, but there's still people going a little hardcore, and then you got, you know, from Orange County down, it's like just all the same. So
the clubs seem to handle it pretty well, though. I mean, they kind of did their part and shit like that, and they did what they could for comedy. I feel like Flappers held out really well, and they started doing Zoom shit like immediately, which was great.
Yes, Flappers was doing Zoom, and then the Factory eventually did they did Zoom shows where one comedian would go in at a time. The store was doing shows from the window. The Improv was doing shows from the parking lot. So it was, you're right. I mean, they wanted to keep it alive, but I didn't mind a little bit of a break. I don't know where we're at now. I just went and did a whole checkup, knock on wood. Seems everything's good so far. And my doctor's like, look, there's a new variant. It's a sub-variant. It's BA.12. He's like, look, dude, it's going to be here forever for a while. We don't know. He's like, I can't tell you if it's more contagious or not, but we'll you know, just keep watching the numbers.
Yeah, no, exactly. I told you I got fucking slammed with it, and now I got to get. I'm coming up. Friday will be day 10. I feel okay. I'm a little tired, but you know that's I guess normal or whatever. And then
day 10, dude. Day 5, you're allowed to go back and go to Chipotle. Wasn't that the new thing?
Yeah.
I like that you're allowed to go back out and totally ruin your asshole at Chipotle if you want to. Friday will be.
It was 5 days now, right?
I forgot it was 5 days.
To like 3.
Oh, really?
I don't know. It might have been, but I know it was 5 now. Like, kind of like watch yourself for 5 days.
Oh yeah. I felt fine after 3. Tom fucking, you got crushed with it.
All right, so I got crushed. Plus, my wife actually has MS, so I was like super, because I was able to get it and not give it to her. We just stayed in separate areas in the house, and then the doctors were like, "This is the funny part," because it all came down to, it was a lot of like just politics. Because they're like, "Yeah, after 3 or 5 days, you go back to work, but you're still contagious. So I don't know if you want to sleep in the same bed as your wife until you test negative, right?" So I'm like, ain't that a bitch? It's because 95% of the transmission happens in those first 5 days, and then only 5% happens after. But we were able to avoid it totally. Like I had it pretty good. And then it's funny because once it's over and it's out of you, you're like, now I can live regular for a while.
For a while, yeah.
Right?
I'm gonna be licking faces when I get out. I'm not even kidding. I told all my friends, I'm like, I'm touching every one of you. Yeah. That's what I'm fucking doing.
But I had my first gig where they had more than 500 people in the room, which was it felt like, okay, now it's 19.
Where was that?
Right? It was a corporate event. So like they finally inside in New York. New York has changed a lot. But then last night we went out for her birthday, and there was a high-end restaurant. So they've stopped checking back like any cards in New York. Except like this one place where we're like, oops, sorry, forgot
to be real,
this is still happening.
New York in August wasn't really checking either. At least the 2 places I went.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I didn't think they were that. But also, you could eat outside if you wanted to.
Yeah. I remember when they started to get a little lax. I was inside a restaurant in New York, and we had already gotten our food at that point, and somebody came up to us like, "Can we check your Vax cards mid bite?" I'm like, I guess. I feel like you should have done that at the door, dude. But all right, fucking trying to eat my salmon. Fuck off. Yeah, that was fucking wild.
Hopefully I'm glad you guys are okay. I'm glad your wife's okay. Hopefully we're,
Thanks, man.
I feel like we're going to the next, hopefully open phase.
Oh yeah,
I think so too. I think we're almost back to like where we could travel and do whatever. And I found it interesting how much countries had shut down. So that's the thing I feel like I missed most, was the traveling, was being able to go different places. I heard Ukraine's on a sale right now. You get there real cheap in the air. So I don't know.
From the air, he says.
You're taking a bus there.
Yeah. Sean Penn's driving. It's gonna be nice.
Nice.
Oh fuck. Do you remember? I always ask this for guys. Do you remember your first gig that you got paid for as a stand-up?
Yeah, I think it was Tony Roma's.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think
great.
It was a Tony Roma's was like the gig to get in like LA in like 91, 92, 93. And it was, I think, in Reseda. And it was like, it's crazy. So to this day, we have a guy on the circuit, Dave Garrett, who is a comedian. But you know how there's like a lot of comedians that start and then people do multiple things, and then it's like some people just do comedy. But he's a great writer. He's written a lot of stuff. But he was also at UCLA studying to be a lawyer.
Oh, wow.
And he was like kind of all of our lawyers on the circuit. So he was like an undergrad at UCLA. And so he would like negotiate our deal at Tony Roma's. And he's like, all right, you're getting $50. You're getting a meal. Now, if you want an extra side, I can figure that out. But it's going to be, the guy's pretty strict about it. Like literally, like, that was the deal. You get a meal at Tony Roma's and $50, and you had to do like 30 minutes. And I believe that was my first paid gig. A lot of hotels, Radisson. I remember Radisson Lounge. I got like $30. A lot of those 30s and 50s.
Wow. Did you have somebody that took you out on the road early on, or did you not do the road that much?
No. So I'll try to keep it simple. Like I said, I came to LA. I wanted to do extra work. So for the first year, I was trying to do extra work, but it's actually low key more competitive than acting, because the barrier to entry is even less, right? You sign up. Oh, do you have a medieval costume from 1583 and a crown of roses? Okay, because we're doing a Caesar's commercial tomorrow, whatever, right? So it's all about your wardrobe.
Right.
So it was like, get down to the set. Rally Burgers have, like whatever, right? So literally sign up at a place called Central Casting and you do that. But so it's hard if you're not in there. So I did a couple of extra gigs, but then I had the regular jobs, delivering pizzas and stuff. And I did improv. It was long story short. There's something called Backpage Audition that I used to do improv, and I got into a group and we did paid gigs like a couple little corporates and some schools, but not much, like $25 or $30 a show. That folded. Another one I did, that folded. And so then after that, that's when I got into stand-up in like the early, like 91-ish. People were like, just do stand-up, dude, because, you can just build from there, do your characters or, figure it out from there. So I started like that. And for 4 years, I would say from 91 to 95, I was pretty much just on the open mic circuit in LA. This was pre-Starbucks, a lot of coffee houses, a lot of like, Indigo Girl types, poets. That's a real thing. Like we had our version of like the bitter ends of like that they had in the 60s in New York, but it was like, in Venice, and it was, Marina Del Rey and some Hollywood rooms and like hookah lounges. Literally, that's all I did was sign up. And there was a whole circuit, the comedians that some that now are on it, and people, some falling away. And then once in a while, I would get a spot on a New Faces where you'd sign up and you have to wait 2 weeks. Right. And that was pretty much my life for 4 years, and trying to audition for stuff. And then slowly I got, but all the stuff came from stand-up. Like I got my first agent who saw me at a club, first auditions. So then I went from zero. Then I started acting, and I got very busy in acting. Once I got my first gig, it kind of just snowballed. I got very lucky, but I couldn't get anything forever. Mm-hmm. And then when I started getting a name in acting, people were like, you got to do more. And I'm like, I can't headline. Right. I have, 13 minutes. Like I thought I had a strong 13. I had a good, I had a shitty 8. You know what I'm saying? And so the first time my agent got me like a C room, like, off, not a lot of judgment, way off somewhere in Massachusetts. It was like a buffet, and I did like 20 minutes and then a lot of questions and Q&As, and I bought, and then I bought another guy to help me. But basically that's when comedians started taking me out, so they liked that I would do with the press. And so great comedians like Rick Overton,
love Rick Overton.
Craig,
great guy.
Craig Shoemaker, Bob Saget. These guys would let me open for them and do 12, 15 minutes, and that helped me a lot because I did not have anything past that. And then I would eventually, built my minutes up until I started. Gary Valentine used to let me middle for him.
Oh, nice.
And so I was already known, but I just didn't, I didn't have it.
Right.
So I was building it up. And I was okay with that. I was okay with going, listen, I can't headline yet.
Right.
Yeah.
It's so weird, man. So, I feel like that,
which is kind of fucked up, right? Because, dude, I could go on a whole 30 podcasts about this. The reason my acting career took off is because I saw the clubs. You're going to like this, but you're going to hate this.
Yeah.
Not giving me spots because I wasn't known. And I go, well, how do I get known? They're like, well, we like TV and movies. I go, but this is a comedy club. And they go, yeah, but you don't have any fucking credits. And I go, I know, but this is like a comedy club, right? And they're like, so they would get mad at me. So that's when I really focused, and I'm like, okay, I'll figure out this fucking credit thing, right? And literally, like, the improv in the early 90s was insane with just goats that would walk in and do spots. Right. So it was actually a great time to not get spots. I mean, it would be littered with sitcom stars that were in town and just want to work on a quick end for the Tonight Show or whatever.
That's awesome. Yeah.
But like then when I got credits, they were like, come on in, and they would put me on a Saturday Night Show and I would eat a dick and I'd go, because I didn't get better at your club. Now you got me. And I had to like get somebody like you, and I go, yo, I got this premise about a white rapper, help me with, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, So it's really the comedy clubs, as much as I love, it's like, do you want to cultivate funny people or do you want to cultivate famous stars? And so, look,
right.
I understand that game. So I got famous before I was known as a comic, but I went on the road for a long time and played Dayton and stuff and do 20 minutes and bring great comics. And I got better that way, but I didn't get better because I was famous.
But you were like the original version of like these TikTok stars or these YouTube stars that don't have an act but can sell a theater, and then they're like, "Come and do it."
Yeah, but I was honest about it. See, I started as a stand-up, and then I got so busy as an actor. And I thought, well, I'm probably not going to do stand-up anymore. And then my agent's like, look, man, I can get you a college. All you got to do is 12 minutes at lunch. And I could handle that. And they were like, why is the guy from Scream in the lunchroom? And then I would do like...
Are we all going to get murdered right now? What is going on?
Yeah, it was in the rules. But it was like, I would play the fall gigs and the, Greek weeks and all that shit. Right. And then I would build my way up. But, but the truth is, like, the clubs would give me an offer, and I'd be like, I can't do it. So I would always bring better people with me, but I would really hone my craft under better comedians who were like, okay, you're at 20 now, go middle. Yeah. You know what I mean?
But that's genius. Yeah, that's genius in and of itself, though. And the other thing, too, is like, that's the crazy shit that we have to do just to do what we love half the time. You know what I mean? Like, like you were like, I've got to get famous just to tell dick jokes.
Yeah. I know. And I was at that point, I was doing boob jokes. But like, to me, this is why I want to build an app, and I want to build a club. Like, I'm going to give the idea out, but I don't care. I want to have an app where it's AI rated on 10 data points of the night. So you put it up in the room, and it's based on originality, laughs, dealing with hecklers, cursing, whatever. 10 data points. I know comedians are going to hate this. And then you rate them. And then you go, here's your score for tonight. Boom, come back. Or if not, you have too many dick jokes, rework them. I'm saying comedy should be 100% decentralized, democratized. Like, you cannot like a basketball player, but if he drops 30 a night, you cannot deny him. But I feel like comedy, there are people that are hilarious, that are not getting their justice dues. There's people that aren't funny, that are, and all in between. And it's, to me, if the audience is laughing and they're building something, hey, but that's what's weird about it. Like,
completely agree.
It's to me, if you keep your overhead low as a club, and I love the clubs, you can cultivate totally funny comedians that aren't known, and you don't have to rely on the star system. And I don't think the star system is bad, but I'm saying it's, in a perfect world, you start as a comic, get your 5, get your 10, do your TV spot, do your 15, go middle for somebody who's known. So it's absolutely, that's my opinion.
And even for like headliners that are local and shit like that come into the area, you know what I mean? If you use them to, I remember starting at a club when I was younger. I was, working there, even doing the door and stuff like that, and getting on stage that way, like my first year or two into comedy. But man, they fucking would bring in the same guys every month. And then the audience started to dwindle because it's like, these guys are not, they're quote unquote headliners, but they're, basically within the tri-state fucking area, and they're not writing new material. You know what I mean? How many, wig jokes can you fucking do? And hear again and over, and they would bring those guys in, and they weren't kind of cultivating newer comics. And I'm like, at least if you mix it up and put us in there, then at least gives them something to come back for, or something new. I remember moving out, when I moved out to LA, the same thing happened to me. I was in LA for 2 years. I moved out there in 2015, and I didn't fucking understand. I've been doing comedy 10 years at that point, and I didn't understand the credit system. I had no idea, because I would try to get, I really did. It fucking blew me away, dude. I would go into these clubs or whatever, and I would be trying to get in, and then I think I would just see on the roster like all these people, and I thought, like, man, I got 10 years in, I've opened for all these great people, I've been on the road for fucking ever, I've got writing credit, I got all this shit, but not TV. I didn't have TV credits. So I was like, oh man, this fucking sucks. So I would see these other comics go up, and they'd be like, yeah, you've seen them on HBO's Girls and like background shit, and then they'd fucking eat it. They'd tank on stage, and I could not figure it out for the life of me what I was doing. I was like, what is going on? And then I ran. You know Pat Barker? So Pat's a Philly guy. He's a Philly comic that I knew when I was. You remember Rascals?
Ish. Yeah, I think that was after my.
I was okay. Wow. Well, I was around when I was doing it, but it was only 2 clubs left. It was in Orange, New Jersey, and
oh no, it was before my time, but I thought there was one. I didn't really play Philly until Helium.
Oh, okay.
But maybe it was in Philly, right?
No, there was in New Jersey, and then there was one on the edge of Philly in Cherry Hill, like in that kind of area. So, but you know, the guy who owned it like wound up embezzling money and then leaving, which is so weird because like, what'd you make, 30K? Like, and then you went to like, why?
Like 30K went a long way in Mexico, my friend.
Apparently, yeah, apparently. So he does that, you know, the club folds or whatever. But Pat started
Camden. 30K far in Camden.
Would go far in Camden.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he was the king that day. So you know, I ran into Pat at the Comedy Store. I had no idea he moved out to LA. And I was only out there for like a couple weeks, and he's like, "Oh, I didn't know you were out here." And I'm like, "Yeah, man." And he goes, "Let me ask you a question." And I go, "Yeah, go ahead." And he goes, "You bombing?" And I go, "Yes." And I'm like, all the time. And he goes, "Just get." He goes, "Same thing happened to me." He's like, "Just wait until you get into the clubs, and you'll be fine." And then I got into the Comedy Store, and I got into the Ice House, and I felt better, flappers. But when I was doing like a hostel in Santa Monica. You know, I was like, what the fuck is this? Why am I not, you know, it was weird, man.
A lot of angry Swedes, you know, sleeping on those egg.
I did that show too.
Yeah, those egg crate cushions.
Yes.
I would say this. I think it's a beautiful time though to be in this space because this is what you do. Right now, when people ask me, like, you don't have to have a TV credit. Sure, is it nice to get a Comedy Central Presents or a Premium Blend? I did all that, or a guest TV spot. It's awesome. It's good for cred. It's good for the business. But at the end of the day, if you can build your following just off your grams, your tube, and then one of the things that this pandemic has showed me is that entrepreneurs win. And it's like I'm doing some crazy ass pop-up gigs. So it's $120. I mean, 120 people. But guess what? They're there. They're selling. They're rabid. They're buying merch, and it's fun. And I can do those and sprinkle them in with my mainstream gigs, and I'm about it. That's what this is. And you know, I'm sure as much as I do that Hollywood doesn't give a fuck about any of us. It doesn't give a fuck about you. It doesn't give a fuck about me. It doesn't give a fuck about anyone unless you're winning. So if you're making noise over here. And you're blowing up, Hollywood's gonna go, "Hey, John, come over here." And at that point, you can decide what you want to do. So it is democratized in the sense now. You don't have to do all those steps, I believe, but it's, you know, it's nice to be in clubs. I love clubs, but again, at the end of the day, I think you could do an off night. You could go to a club and say, "Listen, I got this show. I'm selling tickets. You know, give me a Tuesday. I'll even do the early show to prove it. I'll take none at the door." You know, whatever. There's moves to be made.
Absolutely. Yeah. Do you remember?
Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
No, I forgot.
Oh,
I was going to say something. 3 seconds out, it's gone.
Yeah. I was going to say, do you remember a point in your career though where you felt like I want to say stable, but you know what I mean? Like where you hit that high note where you're like, "Oh, good, everything's clicking, everything's working. I finally know what I'm doing."
Yeah, and no. I would say probably 2002 to 2005. I was really cruising in the sense that I had a show on TV, and I knew that it was getting, and it was being picked up. So I was like, okay, I got a full season of a show, which is, you know, very fortunate. I knew I had my next movie lined up.
Nice.
And then when I started filming Hecklers, when I was like, okay, I made a deal to do my first special for Comedy Central. And I'm like, I've got all of those lanes covered. Now all I have to do is just execute, right?
Right.
And and I had, you know, every big rep, and, you know, like from the publicist to the agent to everything. And it takes a team to, you know, a village to build, you know, whatever. It takes a village, they say. And so the issue is that once certain cracks started happening, maybe the movie didn't perform as well, or your ratings dip, or sudden cancellations and stuff, that's when you really got to figure it out. So then as I was riding, I can enjoy it for a good, listen, I've been enjoying it for a while, but there are shocks to the system that come after, you know, for a good 2 years, 3 years, do my shit, grab my check, bounce, do my bounce, you know.
Right.
Boom. And then shit starts getting rocky. And then you're like, oh, fuck, this is new ground. And then so you have to readjust. And I had gone through probably rough seas, I'd say about 4 times in terms of peaks and valleys of my career. And now you never figure it out.
Right.
You are always a work in progress. You realize what it is you're doing, and you are, you know, you figure out what you are. And right now I'm kind of in my most calm place.
That's great,
because because the pressure's off, not just for me, but also the business is so different. It's completely different. The distribution model of the business is completely different. There are people that had the #1 movie in America, and they're huge, but they might be huge in a smaller bubble than what it was.
Right.
Okay. And people might be talking about the DeMillo sisters more that weekend, or when an album came out, it was the biggest of that weekend. But now it's not. Everything is like almost death by 1,000 cuts. So it's like, it's not just one big cultural event, maybe like the Super Bowl, but that's it. Like, it's changed so much. So now we're all kind of dancing for our dinner. And, you know, you have to have multiple lines of income, I believe. And you kind of can't rely on anybody. You can't wait. Like, you never could before, but it was at least like, I knew I was up against 4 other guys, and I knew here was my chance. Well, now it's like just so splintered. Netflix, Hulu plus, Paramount plus, Paramount gluten free. Like, it's so insane. And now and there's also, like, you know, I'm not gonna say this in anything, but there's like, I've had a good run, and I'm not saying my run's done, but like, there are certain things right now, like, I won't be considered something just because of my skin suit. You know what I'm saying? Like,
right.
I'm a white dude, early 50s. I get it. And I get it, by the way. You know what I mean? Everybody should be considered. So I kind of, you know, have been put in my own little thing. And since I'm a person that likes to do his own thing, I don't mind it right now. So now I know it's like, part of it is just where we're at in terms of the entertainment landscape. Plus COVID.
Oh, sure.
So I'm kind of like I'm living like a YouTuber. Like, I look at my number on YouTube. I just got my Instagram monetized. I'm gonna try to do it all that way. Like,
I've seen that whole pop up on mine. Yeah, I gotta ask you about. I've seen that pop up on mine every now and then. It keeps asking me to do it, and I was skeptical, and I have no idea what the fuck they want. I know they want a bank number, and I'm like, guys, come on. But I didn't know it was a viable thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's Instagram. I don't think they're gonna rob your bank, but
no, I don't think
it. I just tried to buy some Bitcoin from a guy on there. It didn't work out.
I know. I almost had you, Tom. I almost had you with that fake account I made.
Bitcoin with a V. But it's like, everything is just, the pressure's off. It's like, I've lived. And now I'm lucky because I've become I'm lucky enough that I'm some kind of a thing. Like, I always say, I'm like Bounce fabric softener. You know what I mean? Like, you know it, you see it on your shelf. It's there. You recognize it. You know, it's a matter if it's having a good year or not, right? Like, that's
sure.
And I'm lucky because I got that last, I believe, bit of that regular Hollywood, people say the 90s were the last bit of that, but I don't know, maybe not.
Well, you built your brand. I have a question. When you hit that first valley, right? Because it's easy when you go into the peak. When you hit the first valley, were you like, oh shit, it might be over? Did it panic, or did you be like, all right, no, I'm just gonna get right back on this and ride it back up to that next peak?
Oh, panic all day, all day. I've had nothing but panics and shit. Like, my first valley was I was doing so many movies, and I'm like, this is gonna be the way, and I'm gonna movie. And then I was becoming the guy from the late 90s to 2000 where I was like the third lead, and I was like the funny guy, right? The funny friend. And I'll never forget, I read for What Women Want, and I sat there, and God rest his soul, the casting director, Howard Fuhrer, I believe he passed away, one of the most legendary casting directors in all of Hollywood. And he goes, I don't know what I'm watching, but I like it. And it was a late audition, and I believe it was Nancy who directed The Holiday and all that stuff. And she's like, I know, it's different, it's weird, but I don't, it could work. Like, and it was so cool because they were talking about me in front of me, which is rare. And I thought, I'm gonna get this with Mel Gibson. Like, I already done enough of these, and I'm like, I'm gonna get this with Mel. And then I didn't get it. And then there was another movie called Mission to Mars. I was so close. And then I think my buddy Jerry O'Connell got that. And so I was like, I'm not getting those roles. And like to be the comedic, like your own $5 or $6 million movie at that time, which you could have done. They weren't ready to give me that yet. So then my agent's like, go to TV, blow up, and you're going to get that. And then I was in TV development for like 2 years, and it was not a hard life, but it was like basically like me just, you have to remember, this was a time where you would get a great amount of money, but you couldn't do anything. Right. So if Fox gave you a very good amount of money, you couldn't do a guest spot. You were basically held for them until they figured out what they wanted to do with you. So you took this money. Yeah. But it's not like today where you can do 73 things and you had a contract. Yeah. So I was watching a year and a half of my life, like, I'm not getting this movie, I'm not getting this show. Boom. And then once I got my show on it, which was a whole other ball of wax, that helped again. Yeah. And then I was going up again as a solo thing. And then, I had another movie that bombed, and then that went down. And then they were like, they don't want to touch you that way. So it's listen, you're always going to question it. But each thing, I mean, I hate to sound like a dork, but it does make you stronger. But it's now I'm at the age where I've been doing this for 30 years. Like, I've had my SAG card for 30 years. Wow. Right. And I've done stand up like about 30 years, pretty much solid for the last 24 years. And I had some on and offs in the first 6, but I know that now it's us that's responsible. You just put out the stuff you want, rock with people who rock with you, be fair, be transparent, and just know that in the end of the day, it's a job. Like, it's, if you look at what happened last week, like the shrine, the Super Bowl of Hollywood is the Oscars, and it just peeled the curtain back in such a way that it just shows you everything is just like fucking bullshit. Yeah. And I've known this for a long time, but it's just not, I mean, you tell me from the, I don't want to say the outside, but like wherever you guys feel you fit in this spectrum, I don't feel it has the same shine as it did.
Oh, no, not at all, dude. And I mean, I was somebody who used to watch that kind of stuff with my parents, and like, my grandfather was like kind of like involved in some small stuff when he was younger and he first got to New York. He was lived in England, jumped ship, came to New York, got involved in a couple small things. But like, that was always kind of around. We watched the Oscars. It was like an event. We love that kind of shit. I love movies. I love going to the movies, how my family connected and shit. So I remember watching those early, Oscars and stuff. And it completely changed. It doesn't have a shine to it anymore. It's got like, everybody's way too self-important. Nobody knows how to take a joke. And again, this is going to be biased, but I feel like it's because they literally stripped away the comedians. There's nobody there anymore having a fucking good time. Everybody takes themselves too seriously. even the fucking like the jokes that they have with the banter is so washed out and fucking, mundane and homogenous and shit. Like all the joy is gone. So yeah, the of course the slap fucking heard around the world was the best thing that, not the best, but you know what I mean? Like it was just that thing that was like, oh my God, this is fucking nuts. And
yeah, and like you said, it pulled the curtain back. It totally showed it showed this man that was by his PR machine is like, I am full of love. I am all love. He comes up and smacks a guy.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah. It was.
You know what? Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, I was gonna say you've had severe experiences with hecklers and shit like that, almost to that extent. I think pretty much to that extent. But like, I felt like, holy shit, like this is pulling back the curtain in a way that's Hollywood does not give a fuck about comedians. They don't have a comedy category. Like that was what Hollywood thinks of comedy personified in real time, because no one gave a fuck that Chris got hit that night.
So it's so fucking true what you say. And Mark Lonnell, who was one of the owners of the Improv, who gave me my early breaks, talked about that. And for a while, he would always fight to have this as a category. On the simpler side, I did a whole pod about it. Like, and I got to go back. Don't let me lose my thought. Is that I go to these conventions now.
Yeah.
And they're incredible. These horror, these sci-fi conventions, and Scream having its 20th anniversary.
So good.
It's just insane. All of us go. A lot of us from the original movie go out, and the fans are just unbelievable, glorious, beautiful people. Where these cities have their own Comic-Cons, and they're getting big, like San Diego, right? And so, Scream was never considered in any of these categories of Oscars, but yet it's just now part of the lexicon. It just becomes bigger and bigger, right?
Yeah.
So we've been able to been part of something that has done that, right? And the Oscars takes itself so seriously, and there's amazing movies that come out of it. But sometimes the movies I feel like made for this small little contingent, right?
Yeah.
And like there was no mention of Spider-Man, which is the second biggest movie of the world. I have to still see it. People said it's an insanely great movie.
It's so good.
And so
man.
and it's like they you don't have to be a fanboy to love it, they say. And like if you see videos of like people, they were like screaming in the middle of like, I mean, I love Power of the Dog, but where people like, in the middle of the screening, you know what I'm saying? I love the piano, but are people going, what I mean? It's like, so there's a big disconnect between what the people want and what, the Academy likes. The Academy is almost low-key putting itself out to pasture, and I love it. I'd love to be in it. I'm in the Television Academy. I'm very lucky to be a part of it. I'd love to be in the Film Academy, but like you said, it's peeled back, dude. People are Snapchatting. People are TikToking. People are falling in the kitchen. They're seeing, that people want realness, and we're never going to go back.
Right.
And to be real with you regarding the slap, I did a lot of videos on it, but I can't watch the actual slap. Like, I fucking cringe, bro, because Chris Rock he's one of our GOATs. Like, he is a Mount Rushmore comedian through the timeline, through the beginning of time. He is a Mount Rushmore. And in a Mount Rushmore comedian, movie star, you could argue, or at least right now, one of the biggest movie stars of all time, violently. Yeah. Like, listen to it, watch it. It's fucking violent. When I was talking, and it shouldn't matter, but it will. Another black comedian this week I did a show with, and he's like, yo, bro, he was concussed.
Yeah.
And I was like, you're right. Like, he was like, dude, the fact that he kept it together because he was shook. And I go, dude, I felt like it was so fucking violent, dude. It made me go like, what the fuck is wrong with you, bro?
Yeah.
Like, that was just, dude. And I've done movies with Will, I've done movies with Chris. I've been very, like, I'm telling you, it was violent, bro. And I'm not saying there haven't been worse things in the Academy and Hollywood's done more. It wasn't just a slap. It was a fucking punch on a smaller dude for not a joke, a throwaway. Like I said, it was banter just to keep it's like, oh, I got 15 more seconds. Let me throw this in. Filler time. Bam, to keep the flow going. It was a throwaway. It was a connector. It wasn't anything. And he went 3 for 3 so far. Like, he already had 3 killer jokes. And that one you could say was 4 for 4. It got a good laugh. It was just
it did.
Throwaway.
Yeah.
But the fact, there's so much behind it. But I literally felt, dude, like, that's just, it was violent. Especially, and Chris, if you look at it, slow it down. It's fucked up. And Chris is a man. He took it like a man. He's a bigger person, and I just it was fucking sad, dude.
It was. It really was. And it just wrapping your head around it and trying to figure out what the fuck would allow anybody to just let him sit there, like, and then the standing.
You know what?
Oh yeah,
it's all complicity. It's all complicity. I talk about it. If you want to know why Weinstein got away with it, look no further than that auditorium.
Oh, that's so fucking
bunch
true,
of fucking
dude.
People that don't want to fucking rattle the feathers to keep the money train going. Fucking agents, managers, publicists, they're all sucking off this teat. But this teat is getting smaller and more irrelevant. And I loved the teat when it was fun, but it's not anymore because people are screaming from the mountains of how good they are. But then there's a bunch of bullshit.
Right. Yeah. Yep. And you're right about that. I always talk about the Marvel movies and shit like that, where it's like, you know what, if you want to bring the Oscars back, if you want to make them fun for people and bring a different audience in, and even if you want to boost the ratings, fucking acknowledge the shit that brings people to the movies, that makes them get excited over shit. I mean, it's insane to me that one of the arguments I always hear all the time is, from the older directors and shit like that, which obviously they have a right to say they're massively talented, whatever they want, right? But they're always like, oh, it's taking away from. I'm like, bull fucking shit. Look at any one of those actors that has made money doing those Marvel movies. They have done more smaller projects, passion projects, Netflix movies, regular smaller indie films that wind up in a couple theaters because of the money that these other movies bring in and allow them to do. They have the freedom to do that kind of shit because they're raking it in everywhere else. So, I mean, I feel like,
I think like you, I look at Nolan's, I look at, the Dark, which 2008, The Dark Knight?
Nolan's Batman, The Dark Knight,
I mean, you could argue that's a Goodfellas of superhero, right? I mean, it's as dark, it's as real, and it just happens to have a comic book, but I haven't seen the new Batman, but I heard it's incredible too. So it's like, to me, and if you look at a Marvel movie, like, I'm trying to think, like, what was the last big one I saw was the Endgame.
Oh, Endgame,
I mean, dude, that had a lot of layers to it.
Yep.
6 special effects, but also, like, hard. Like, there was moments I caught myself getting a little choked up. But, dude, the comedy is on point.
Right.
And it's like, there's a difference between, I understand what people are saying, and it's like, not everything is going to be, Hal Ashby. But these dudes are inspired by Hal Ashby, and Martin. So I think that there's love in both, because at some point you have to look at that. The USC film game, at one time it was around that group. Not all of them went, but it was Spielberg, Lucas, De Palma, Scorsese, and Francis. Those 5, if you watch Easy Rider, Raging Bulls.
Oh, yeah.
And they all went in different directions in what movies they make, but they all made great movies.
Right.
Okay. Yeah. So Godfather, is it any more impactful or less than Star Wars?
Right.
I mean, you know what I mean? So
true.
And they all came out of the same kind of 60s counterculture. So I think that those 5 guys you look at and you go, it seemed to work there. And I love Jaws as much as I love.
Oh man, me too.
Chinatown. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's like, I don't know.
Yeah, no, Jaws.
I don't know. I don't know how to answer that. But I understand if they feel like, look, if you're not getting, the Crying Game, like, you could go and watch the Crying Game in the early 90s, and you knew you could watch it at a Lenley in New York, or what's the one, the Tribeca, whatever. Like, you go there late night, and it's considered an art film, but it became mainstream. But you could also watch, Wedding Crashers. I don't know. To me, it all works.
Exactly.
But I guess there's room, I guess, though, because if there's so much money being made in a Spider-Man movie, it kind of pushes out a smaller movie to go right to streaming, maybe.
I guess, yeah. And also Scorsese, I think, used the kind of publicity he got trashing Marvel movies to boost The Irishman, because it didn't do that well. Like it got like critically, it did well or whatever. But I don't think a lot of people, they were like 3 fucking hours of Robert
horrible
De Niro's
CGI.
Horrible CGI.
Right?
Yeah. I mean,
they couldn't get a
I
guy
have
from
to watch
X-Men.
it.
Oh, you have? Oh, we don't have to.
No,
I
know I know it's big. It's long, so I gotta commit. You know what I mean?
Yeah, man. Take a couple months, break it up.
You can't. Yeah, you can't. You just. That's the thing. It's like there was a great executive I used to have at Warner Brothers, and she would always tell me, she would say, "Adapt or die," and that's just the way it is.
Yeah.
Like she got me on MySpace. I'm like, "What the fuck is that?" I have a website. She's like, "Listen, you're gonna want to connect with people. There's just a wave gonna come," and she knew it. She's like, "Just adapt or die, dude." And that's what it is. And I'm not saying that people are going to be aged out. They're not. But it's like,
right.
I'm much more. I just had my first little joke, just a simple joke, go viral on TikTok. My first million view. Now,
nice.
I don't know. That's exciting to me.
Absolutely. I completely agree, dude. Yeah, it is exciting.
Like, so it's like that's where we're at, and it's like I'm happy to be in the game. I didn't have to wear a thong, So, but it doesn't mean we can't make good shit. Like,
right.
You know what I'm saying? But I think the helmers of these movies, James Gunn, he's a student of multiple genius filmmakers. That's why he's become his own genius. That's what. There's a great article about the director of Morbius, who his cut's not there, and I think that his cut was taken away, and there people are, because he directed. Oh God, dude, what's the movie? Safe House. You ever see Safe House?
Oh yeah, yes. I have. Yeah,
great fucking movie. Denzel and Ryan Reynolds, and they're like,
amazing.
How did this guy make that and that? And well, he's not saying anything because they want to ruffle, but they're saying the studio took the cut. So it's like the Marvel is completely movie fucking maker friendly. You know what I'm saying? Like, and so I don't know. I'm rambling, but it's just I think it's all we just have to grow. Like, great actors are in the Marvel universe.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's shown, what I love? I like when people get pissed off about it not being adult or movie, or like, I can't wrap my head around the magic and all that other shit. And I'm always like, dude, our entire lives are magic. Are you fucking kidding me? Every 4 years, a different political party gets into office and casts a magic spell bill that blocks some shit the other party did, and then they get elected, and then they cast their counter spell, and it's like it's all fucking made up bullshit. You know what I mean? What are you talking about?
Dude, that's such a good analogy. But like, even if you weren't a fanboy, like I'm not a comic book dude, I don't know enough about it. But like, dude, I was so into Thanos and like the last movie, like, and I was like, it was low key science. Like, oh shit, like with like quantum entanglement and like in multiverses, that shit is being talked about in all science papers right now.
Absolutely.
So it's kind of like,
totally.
It's not just Superman of '79, Richard Donner. It's much more.
Oh. Yeah. No, exactly. Yeah. All that shit. I love when they kind of get into some real shit and people are like the fact that like Neil deGrasse Tyson has to break shit down every now and again where they're like, well, they were kind of right about this. And you're like, fuck yeah, they were.
There's timelines, but like the escapism is the escapism, but it's, I don't know. You could escape in a fucking gangster movie too. I mean,
totally. Absolutely. And also that's the thing too, man. It's like, if I'm going to pay close to fucking $40 to go out to see a movie with someone plus food and drink, you better take me to space. I don't want to see I don't want to see George Clooney at 60 struggling with 7 I don't give a fuck. I don't care.
So you want to go in the 4D theater like I do. You want those speakers right by your ass. You want to be able to order mac and cheese with truffle. And you can't just watch Marry Me. Sorry, J-Lo. We love you. But you want to go to Xenon. You want to follow that origin story, that blue chick in Guardians 2. You know what I'm saying? I'm with you. I got you.
Yeah, man. Well, we're getting close, man. I want to talk about your podcast real quick. I fucking love your podcast, man. It's crazy good. The guests that you have on are great. And I feel like, I don't know if I'm just, I don't want to say reaching, but like with the documentary style that you kind of did, you touch on a lot of personal topics as far as performing goes with different people that I really love. Like I like seeing, an actor's perspective on, the struggle of performing and things like that. And maybe like, dealing with the same shit you had to deal with starting out and on the road and stuff like that. Is that what you tried to do when you first started it? You bring those real elements into it?
Well, you mean my pod or when I started this journey?
When you started the podcast, I feel like, yeah.
When I started the pod, well, I'm sorry to cut you off.
No, it's fine.
When I started the pod, I was like, basically in a nutshell, we're dinner entertainment, right? Like you were saying, like comedy still at this day is fighting for the respect in this universe, right? Like, I mean, you could say that court jesters always had the king's ear, and maybe after they cut off 3 other people's heads, the court jester's still around, but he was always a minute away from being in one of those stretched machines, right? Like, so, but we were literally called the court jesters, but I trust Bill Burr more than I trust CNN for information. You know what I'm saying? So comics are that, and that's a good comic is where we're at, like George Carlin or Pryor telling you these harsh realities and then giving you sugar at the end so you can digest it, right? So to me, I started the pod because I didn't people have a lot of preconceived notions of me and how I am, and I am all those things. I am fun, I am light, I can be goofy, do characters and be big, but there's a lot of deeper topics I want to talk about. And what pods have done is shown comedians other sides. So if I can put those out there and build that, faction of my audience, and then use my skill set to go sell them to you live and make them a little funnier without the pressure of having to get a laugh every 10 seconds, that's why I did it. And also just to share, like, it's therapy for me. Like, the curtain is, there's no, peel back the curtains. There's no curtain. It's just done. Like, to me, it's just like, we fucking want to connect. There's no more false airs. Yeah. Like you said, the slap was little, but it was very big. And people are going, all these people make a big deal about this and that. But like I said, the anger and the violence which was there for it was just because it was Chris. It was just so disrespectful to one of the greatest of all time. Would someone else, would Yo-Yo Ma, like, I'm not even being funny, go and fucking smack the shit out of A Stock Perlman? Like, it's just insane. Yeah, like, absolutely. Because he didn't like the way he hit a fucking chord. Like, so there's a lot of deeper things that connect with it. And so that's where we're at. I don't think we have time for games anymore. It's like, people don't want bullshit. They want nourishing fucking food. And that's what I want to do in my pod. I want to nourish them. I don't want to talk about stupid shit. Yeah, that's great, man. And it does do exactly that too, which is awesome, dude. I got to ask you the big 3 questions we ask every guest.
Absolutely. I had a comment earlier too. I just wanted to pull up. In case anybody else has questions, shoot them at us. We'll get them after the big 3. But Model Newbie said, Jamie, SDSC misses you in your poolside reports. Also running low on bone broth.
Oh, social distancing social club. What's up, my people? I had the best time with Steve and Ben and Bowers during the beginning of this pandemic. I used to do a report every Friday from my pool. So awesome. Big shout out to my people from SDSC.
Nice.
Yeah, we appreciate them checking in.
Thanks for watching, everybody. So big 3 questions are, first one is, if you can go back in time and talk to your younger self, give yourself a piece of advice that would help you today, what would it be?
It's either between it's all going to work out or nothing really matters. But I kind of already subscribe to nothing really matters, but I get tense in moments where I don't think something's going to work out, but it is. But I don't want to tell the younger self that it doesn't matter, they don't try enough. But somebody who's more successful than me told me, what do you care about your legacy for? You're going to be dead. Yeah. And I was like, dude, it hit me like an arrow. And I was like, you're right. He's like, you fucking in the dirt. You're worried about your fucking plaque or your picture. And I was like,
Yeah.
It just, dude, it fucked me up. And I was kind of took the pressure off. It just hit me at 51 years old. I was like, it's kind of true. But you obviously still want to do shit. So you don't want to be total lethargic. But I would tell myself, just ease.
Yeah. That's awesome, man. Second question is, what had to end in your life, good or bad, that led you to where you are today?
Ooh. I would say, traditional Hollywood. It didn't end, but it doesn't come as easy as it did to me. And I mean, I still work in it, but that enough shunning from that, or we're not into him right now, led me to this, which is low-key more exciting than I've been in a long time, because I can put it out and I control it, and people seem to like it. So that makes me feel like I wasn't totally wrong in my beliefs.
Oh, that's an awesome fucking answer. That's great.
That's great from like a creator perspective, right?
Yeah.
Like you finally have full control. And it's no longer put into anybody else's hands.
Yeah. And it's, as long as you play within the rules. I mean, we do have some rules on these platforms, but they're pretty lenient. But, as long as you don't go crazy.
You want to hear something crazy?
I knew. Are you going to tell him?
Yeah. Listen to this, right? We did a 24-hour MS marathon. So we did, and a bunch of great guests, including Art from Everclear came on because he's an MS warrior. My wife has, so that's one of the reasons why we did it. We raised a ton of money. We had a great time. We had so many incredible guests all throughout for the 24 hours. One gentleman at 4 a.m. in the morning, who's from, he was a big band back in the day, right?
Yeah.
We'll
tell you backstage if you hang out backstage.
We'll tell you backstage,
who it was,
because we had to pull down. We had
to pull down a free throw.
Oh no, we pulled it down. We lost having it out there on our platforms.
Yeah,
because he took his dick out and waved it around on air, and we're like, "What?" Man, ripped it right out, and we're like, "Why would you do that on a 24-hour fundraiser that's going out on national
MS benefit charity
on their
event.
Platforms too?"
Yeah,
sick.
Multiple sclerosis was his kink.
Maybe that could be it. Which is fine if he would have donated big.
If he would have
donated. Did he donate big or did he donate small?
Yeah.
Wait, he whipped his dick out.
Whipped his dick, dude. And the craziest thing is like we didn't even. It was me and Tom, because Tom and I stayed up for 24 hours for the charity thing.
There wasn't even any. Is he into women or men? He wasn't even any women.
There was no chicks on at all.
Nobody. And the craziest fucking thing is it was like you could tell that this guy had done that shit before, because we don't know how he got his fucking pants down, man. It was 1 minute he was focused and with us, and the next minute pants were down and dick was out. It was nuts.
And his dick was out.
Yeah.
And what was it? Did he say the reason his dick was out for?
We didn't. Tom pulled him like real fucking quick.
I was like,
and we were just like,
we're gonna end up with a strike on us. I'm not trying to get a strike on the platform.
I would have gotten a fucking ban or some like shit on the channel. And the other thing is too is like we were 11 hours in already, so it's not like we could even like cut it real quick and just start it over again. We were like, fuck.
So, plus you're tired, so you don't know. Is that his nose? Is it a dick?
Right.
Exactly.
That's just a weird. I didn't know we were going to go there with that story, but that's you have to tell me off air.
We might have to
I'm going to tell you. Yeah, well, hang out backstage. I'll tell you who it is.
You get in trouble for that.
Yeah.
In this day and age, that's the funniest part. We're like,
what the fuck? Like
that's very late. That's very late 70s, early 80s.
Indeed.
So what you're saying is we were visited by a time traveler. That's actually kind of cool. If we got a silver lining this shit.
Indeed. Lindsay actually has a question too. She wants to know what your most embarrassing comedy moment is with another comedian.
Oh God, Lindsay, that's like these are like embarrassing. Embarrassing. I'm not gonna name names, but not embarrassing. Just like, I did one of my first guest spots on TV. It was on a show. I'm not gonna name it, but it was for a big network that does comedy only. And the person that had the show did not want me on the show, and they introduced me. They basically, it was embarrassing. I knew that I was not wanted on the show, but the network wanted me, and they said, this next guy, He's not really funny, but he's cute. Please put your hands together for Jamie Kennedy. And whatever that is, I was that term. I'm
that fucking
like, low key butthurt. But
what a
big
dick move. Especially when you're about to do TV.
I think eventually they made the person tape it, but that was the first. So I did my set, and then they had to go do a pickup. But that was
what a fucking dick move.
I got a few of those, but I'm sure we all do. You know what I mean?
Nice. Yeah. We get to trade those names off air afterwards. Sorry, guys.
Yeah. And last question ties in with the show. It's my favorite question. So if this is a genuine dystopia, more so than it already is, but let's say alien zombies, fucking comet heading toward the Earth. It's the last day. How does Jamie Kennedy go out swinging? What's your epic death?
Oh, Jesus. Wow. This is, I don't know, dude. I've done so much that I've been very fortunate, and I haven't drank in a while, and it's not that I'm sober, but I just was like, I'm gonna, and part of me would like grab a bottle of red and grab like 2 Percocets because that's a really good feeling. Part of me might be, in some type of sexual situation. I don't know. But part of me just might be praying with the rosaries, dude. I might go back to my early altar boy days and just try to figure, is there a spot for me? I might go there. I'm at that place in my life where I might just rosary it up, dude.
All right, I'm gonna tell you right now.
Rosary and Percocet.
Rosary and Percocet. All right. I'm telling you right now what I'm thinking, because we have an artist that draws everybody's answer to that question for the album cover of the podcast episode, right? So here's what I'm thinking for you. You're having sex, praying with a Percocet and a fucking bottle right next to you. That's what I'm thinking.
I smell a hoodie. I think there's a hoodie in that, bro.
That's fucking great, man. We'll get you one. Oh, that's fucking awesome. Dude, thank you so much for coming on and spending time with us, man. I appreciate it.
Dude, thank you. And I appreciate you, having me. And I'm sorry, like, we get busy. And it's like funny because in these DMs, I have these people that I'm like, I forgot that DM. And so I'm glad that we have. I'll give you my number too.
Please, man.
I mean,
awesome.
Absolutely, 2 men can DM in 2022. It's okay, everybody.
Hang out backstage real quick, man. We'll be right back with you.
All right, we'll see you in a little bit. Thanks, man.
Dystopia Tonight.